Hey, good morning. It is Tuesday morning. It's a regular Tuesday video announcement. Welcome to, oh man, I guess we're in week 8 of the course. So we're about halfway through. And I just want to say, as always, I looked at a couple of the discussion threads over this past weekend, and I just want to say that, I think you guys are really sort of taking it to heart as to what I expect to sort of see going on, at least on a couple of the threads that I commented on. I forget who it was. I think it might have been Kayla. Hang on, let me look. Um, yeah, give me a sec here. I'll take a real quick look, just so, because I think it matters quite a bit, and I'd like for you to maybe take a look at it. Let me fight my way through here. It's going to be during like 7-1 discussion. Yeah, it was Kayla Weinberger's post, and then also I think well, it's certainly Kayla's, and then look around at a couple of the others. I mean, I just think that the level of engagement and the help that was provided on the thesis is really what I think. I mean, it kind of says it more than I could sort of tell you. You guys are really sort of, I think, taking to heart in some ways how discussion sections should work, and how it helps to sort of get to the sections as early as you can, and to and to provide the help. It's sort of really good sort of peer review work there. And I just wanted to say thanks to those of you who took part. And I mean, other than that, I mean, I've been really impressed with the work that folks are doing. I know online classes are not always that easy to sort of keep up with the work, and the level of engagement can seem kind of strange. But I'm always just really impressed. It seems like every semester with the work that students do, and I seem to be somewhat especially impressed with this semester. I know that I will get to reading of your SoCo papers as quickly as possible. It's always a pleasure for me to see just how much people really enjoy reading Storyteller. I think it's a fantastic work, and I think it's a very unique collection. And so I really hope that you enjoyed having a chance to sort of read through and look at autoethnography. I think from what I've seen from some of the theses, I think people are really sort of engaged with the question. And again, I really look forward to reading the work. That said, we're going to be shifting focus quite a bit. We're going to be moving on to reading James Welch's Foolscrow. And it's a longer novel. It's about a 400-page novel or so, 460 something, I think. Maybe it's a 430 something. I can't remember how many pages it is. But you'll need to read. Let me look real quick. I think it's like the first. I don't know. We're going to spend about 3 weeks on the novel. Let me scroll down to the assignments for this week. Give me just a moment. Yeah, it's going to be all of part 1, so about the first 125 pages or so of Foolscrow. Just to make a point before we get started, this week 8 is the week before spring break, and so I do have all of your assignments are due on March 14th by midnight on Monday, March 14th. If you need to push beyond that into spring break, it's okay, right? If you're going out of town or something, just I'll accept the work all the way up until the following Monday, which would be Monday, March 28th or something, right? So you've got some flex, I guess, on when you do the reading and get the work done. That said, though, this is a really, I call this section the historical novel. It's a really unique work. James Welch is a Beguni or Blackfeet Gros Ventre from up around northern Montana. Tribal headquarters, I think, is in Browning, Montana, up along Highway 4, what they call the line on U.S. Highway 4. You'll have a biographical sketch, I think, to sort of look at. It's going to be here in this week, so you'll get to sort of do a biographical interview of Welch. He's no longer with us. He passed away a few years ago. It's a really unfortunate loss. But I think, I've always found James Welch to be one of the more powerful writers in the American Indian canon. I think Foolscrow is an extremely unique historical novel. Foolscrow attempts to I think that the project of the novel is one which is historical, and it's one where it's a Western in some sense because of where it's set in the upper northern plains, but it's also a very unique Western in that it's a Western told completely from the perspective of a third-person narrator, yes, but also one that is from the perspective, I think, as much as possible, a recreation in some ways, an imaginative recreation, absolutely, where the novel tries to go back and imagines a Blackfeet existence prior to European American intrusion. And he does really unique sort of things with language. I'll warn you, some students find this text to be somewhat difficult to read because he literally, in many ways, tries to go back, and I don't know what his process was for writing this text, but certainly the English language is made to create, I think, in some ways, a uniquely Blackfeet transliteration of the English language. So our narrator in this piece, and the way our character speaks, and the names for things, and the way that they view the world, an entire sort of ontological sort of being, like a study of what it sort of means to be Blackfeet in the 19th century, prior to European intrusion, prior to the Marani's massacre. And he miraculously pulls it off. I think that the novel goes back and reimagines what that existence must have been like. Many people find the novel to be difficult in terms of its characterization because it's taking the English language and making it do very sort of Blackfeet things. Is a really sort of basic way of sort of putting it out there. It tries to address, it's known in terms of the genre as a Bildungsroman, so it's sort of a young man's coming of age story, and so I'm gonna forewarn you, this is a text that is very much gendered male. I think after reading Silko, I think one can make the argument that her text is very much sort of from in terms of gender, I think it writes from a very sort of, I don't know that it has a specific perspective from which it writes. I'm not so sure that anyone does. But I think if we were to gender storyteller, I think that we may gender it as female in many ways. I think its focus in some ways is on a representation of what it meant to be a Laguna woman. And I think in many ways, James Welch's work in Fool's Crow is what it meant to be a Blackfeet man. And it's problematic, right? I mean, I'll put it out there, right from the beginning. There's parts, I think you could read Fool's Crow and at times maybe take offense with the structured of how Blackfeet society was structured. I think that, and there's parts in this where men behave very badly. So, I guess this could be a trigger warning. It's not an extremely violent sort of episodes or anything of that nature, but certainly women are depicted in some ways that I could quite easily see how, if we take 21st century, if we take an anachronistic view of the novel, that a critique could be lodged. We shouldn't shy away from that, which is why I sort of bring it up. So I don't know if you take your forewarning or whatever. I always find it fascinating when I teach this text in a face-to-face format, exactly how those conversations sort of evolve. But at the same time, even though I would say that this text is certainly gendered male, and the lifestyle for a 19th century Blackfeet woman or for Blackfeet women is one that seems to be a life of drudgery, and certainly the glorification is on men's role within this society, and our character is one who maybe he tries to bridge that gap, but certainly this is This is a story about men doing men things, Blackfeet men doing Blackfeet men things in the 19th century. And it's interesting, so I hope that you enjoy it. We will follow this up with Louise Erdrich's Love Medicine after we spend about 3 weeks on Fool's Crow, so we will gain a balanced perspective within the class. With that said, I think our character attempts to defy in many ways, and it's a text that is both, I think, I call it historical. It's one that tries to historically recreate that, but it's also one that tries to historically recreate a cosmological structure, a belief system. So you're going to be asked to sort of, maybe you want to call it magical realism if you want to. You're also going to be, the line between fact and fiction, I think, is very unique in the novel. So we'll talk about this more as we go through. We're going to spend about 3 weeks on the text. Enjoy the book. I think if it's difficult to read, my best advice for you is to just to push through the reading, and to eventually, as a reader, as a non-Blackfeet reader, I think that you will begin to absorb, I think, what I think one of the projects of the novel is, and that's for us to gain some understanding of what life may have been like for these people, and what life may have been like for a young man during this time. If you're running behind on your work, please catch up and get your work done. I've sent some emails out to a few people who are falling way behind in an online course. I can't stress enough how important it is to sort of keep up with your work. Any questions at all, or anything that I can do to answer any questions for you, or to help you out in any way, I'm getting caught up with your work. I'm here to help out. Any questions at all about any of the texts that we've read, or anything at all, just send me an email or send me a text, whatever works for you, and I'll respond as soon as possible. If not, enjoy your break. Be careful if you go out of town. Travel safe, and we'll see you upon your return. And that's about all I have for today. All right, thanks so much, Joe.